What is good, everybody? Welcome into the Classic Polasek podcast. We are on week 1 of the NFL, third episode of the season here on the Classic Polasek podcast. Appreciate you guys tuning in. It's going to go out on Friday evening, September the 6th, getting us ready for the weekend with college football. And yes, finally it has come, and pretty excited about the NFL season kicking off on Sunday. Obviously, we had the Bears and the Packers last night. I picked the Bears -3, and what a game that was. Got to watch a lot of that last night, and to say that defense is a rarity in the NFL nowadays was just not the case last night. The Bears played really good defense, and the Packers played good defense. I really think a lot more of that is on Mitchell Trubisky. However, that's just one man's opinion. You could think that the Packers have the best defense in the league, but for what I saw out of the Bears last night, I still think that they are elite. Their pass rush is better than I thought they were. Their linebackers are spectacular, and honestly, their secondary is not too bad either. So, could be one of those things where Chicago is going to struggle to have points, but man, they're going to stay in a lot of games because of that defense. I did pick the Vikings to win that division, so it could be one of those cases where the Bears take a step back. First place schedule. Packers looked okay, but, I mean, against that defense, not a lot of people are going to look good this year. So, the NFL season's underway. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers are 1-0, so technically they're the only team that's won a game for right now. We will get to the picks here in just a little while as we touch on a few things. And stick around. You're not going to want to miss. I saw something today that is semi-life-changing. I have never seen it before. I have never really thought that it would be a possibility of a human being able to do this. Stick around. I'll tell you what it is. We'll show you the video here coming up here in just a little bit. But I want to start with this. Antonio Brown and his theatrics and things that are outside of the game of football. And you know, whenever he went through this entire offseason with the Raiders, he had his frostbite incident with his feet, and then he proceeded to be angry about his helmet, and so he did not want to practice or play without his old helmet that is clearly not abiding by the rules anymore, which I don't know why you'd want to do that to your brain, but so he complained about that, and then Zenith finally went in and signed him as their official guy that says that, hey, this guy threw a fit, and now he's going to wear our helmet, and so he's going to be our guy. A couple days later, Mike Mayock decided he wanted to fine Antonio Brown for not practicing, holding out, doing all these things as far as just not being happy with the team. And so Antonio Brown didn't like that, and so there were reports out there that there was some anger involved, that there was some threatening involved. And so I find it really interesting that Antonio Brown took that upon himself to kind of create that whole situation. It came out today. A lot of reports came out yesterday. It said he would not play this coming weekend. And then today they went back and said they will expect him to play on Monday night, which did not make a big change to the line. So, you guys let me know down below, which, by the way, if you're new here, please do like or subscribe. I post to Facebook, post to Twitter, still trying to figure out the audio, where we want to go with that. But if you're new to this podcast, please do drop a like, subscribe, comment, do all those things. So what I want to know is, comment below, is Antonio Brown worth the headache? Because for me, the more I think about it, wide receivers throughout the history of the NFL have been headaches. Terrell Owens pops into my brain. Michael Irvin pops into my brain. Randy Moss pops into my brain. And so those are 3 elite Hall of Fame talents. And are they worth it? What does it take for them to be worth it? I don't know. That's a question that I want to ask and pose to you guys, because I do find it interesting that teams, and yes, you need great wide receivers, but why can you not have guys, say like Chris Carter, and I'm sure he's not without sin, but just having somebody that's consistent and not going to be a detriment to your team, I think is more important than having such an extreme talent. So that's my thought. Antonio Brown anticipated to play on Monday night against the Broncos at Oakland. So as they start their alleged final year in Oakland and second year under John Gruden again, second of 10-year contract. So looking forward to that one. That one will be late on Monday. A couple of, I would say, decent games on that Monday night. Houston at New Orleans, and then Denver at Oakland. So Antonio Brown, let me know your thoughts down below. Like I said, if you're new, like or subscribe. Do appreciate that. The goal for the year on YouTube is to get to 100 subscribers. And then Facebook, we're at about 240 likes right now to get to 400. So please do share this video around. Let me know your thoughts. Please, if you want to, because I'm going to be picking the games throughout the year against the spread, please let me know your picks. I would love for this to be something that you guys are interactive with me. We keep standings. I think it's a type of fantasy football that we could set up that it's just a pick 'em league. And we have some interesting rules this year, and I want to go over those here in just a minute as well before we get to the picks. So, yeah, if you guys are interested, let me know. And also fantasy football leagues. A couple years ago, I did some with some college roommates and stuff like that. If some listeners or subscribers want to do that, drop me your email down below, and we can work on getting a league set up for next year. That'd be a lot of fun. Okay, so I want to touch on some NCAA football first before we get going into the NFL for the weekend. Kind of some bigger matchups this weekend. Good game last week between Oregon and Auburn. Thought Oregon did enough to win that game. However, Auburn came out victorious. So a couple of, I would say, good games to look out for this week, and I'm picking these against the spread as well. So for people who are new to the spread, I'll give you an example. I'm going to pick Nevada at number 16, Oregon. Oregon is favored by 24 points. So if you think about they're favored by 24, if you're looking at the scoreboard at the stadium and it's 0-0 at the beginning of the game, give the underdog, or in this case Nevada, 24 points to start the game. And then Oregon would have to overcome that to cover the spread. That's how that works. So that's the first game I'm picking. I think Nevada at Oregon. Oregon coming off what would be considered kind of a deflating finish to the game against Auburn, which they played good enough to win. I think this is kind of a trap game for Oregon. I do think that they get the win in Eugene, but I do believe that Nevada loses by less than 24 points. So I will go Nevada. I'll keep kind of my big three. I'm picking 3 games throughout the college football season, just to pepper it in. If you guys want more college football, let me know. I can pick to 10 games, 15 games, 20 games. Just depends upon how long you got and how long I've got to do it. So Nevada plus 24 at Oregon is one of my big 3 this week. The other ones, I'm not necessarily picking ones that are favorable for betting, so don't let that be kind of confused with like a couple other shows. They just pick ones that are good for betting and making money and such, considering their thoughts. So I'm just picking the good games, and as we get down the stretch here, we're going to have more ranked versus ranked opponents, but 2 big ones this week. We have number 12, Texas A&M, at number 1, Clemson, and Clemson is minus 17. So you're telling me I get the 12th ranked team in the country, and I do think Texas A&M is a real threat in the SEC. I really do. And 17 points. I know it's on the road. However, I do think Texas A&M has enough to make it an interesting game. Maybe they lose by 2 touchdowns. That's still within the spread. The spread is 17 points. So if I'm going out there and saying I'm going to lay $20 or $10 down on a bet, I would say Texas A&M plus 17 seems like a pretty good deal. The professionals, quote unquote, that I use the prediction software from from Oddshark, and you'll see that come up here as I make the NFL picks. There's a computer predicted score, and then there's what the actual professionals are betting. And about 52% are on Clemson minus 17. This would be one of those opportunities that I think Texas A&M can get the job done on the road and lose by 2 touchdowns. But I will take Texas A&M plus 17. Seems like a lot of points to give a very good ranked opponent. So I think I feel comfortable with that one. That's one of those ones where you never know. I mean, Clemson is a powerhouse, and so they could come out and have one of those Alabama-type games. Oh, excuse me. Had you on? Sorry, not editing that. Where Alabama just would destroy a ranked opponent. I don't think that's going to be the case this week for Clemson taking on Texas A&M. So the other big matchup over the weekend, or tomorrow night, I should say, is number 6 LSU at number 9 Texas. Now, this is one of those ones, and LSU's favored by 6.5 on the road. This is one of those classic Big 12 versus SECs. This is the first time in the history of the regular season that a ranked SEC team is playing a ranked or top 10 ranked Big 12 versus top 10 ranked SEC. So, for me, I find this to be kind of Sam Ehlinger's Heisman hope. If he can lead them to a victory and have a spectacular season, I think he could be one of the final 3 in New York. I do think he's that talented. He clearly has the grit enough to beat an SEC team. He clearly, because of last year's bowl game against Georgia, but he also showed that he could step up in a big-time role and get the job done against what would be considered a lot of NFL players on defense. So for me, I think in this instance, this is just a rarity for me. I'm going to go an underdog. I get an underdog team at home with a lot to play for. I mean, this is as much hype as Texas has gotten in a long time, probably since Colt McCoy. I mean, I dare say that that's probably the last time that there was this much hype this early. Game day is going to be down there. So I'm going to go Texas plus 6.5, and not because I'm from Texas or this gigantic 12-foot Texas flag behind me, which for those of you just tuning in, just realize that there's a flag behind me. Congratulations. But I think Texas is a good football team, and I think whenever you're in that type of recruiting environment, you have the ability, and LSU's in the same boat. Like, don't get me wrong, any of the top athletes that don't choose Texas, Oklahoma, those 2 schools, I mean, yes, you have your Texas A&Ms and your other ones, but as far as recruiting powerhouses, it's typically Texas, Oklahoma, and then LSU is in that mix, in that little kind of, delicious part of recruiting. Some great players down in East Texas and North Texas, where obviously Oklahoma and Texas get a lot of theirs. So I'll take Texas minus 6.5. I think they are good enough to get the job done. I think they are good enough to win the game, but I get 6.5 points. I'm not going to go outright and say that Texas is going to win, but I do think it's closer than 6.5 points. So those are my college 3 for the weekend. Nevada at Oregon, Nevada plus 24. Texas A&M at Clemson, Texas A&M plus 17. Need to make sure I write that one down properly. And then LSU at Texas. Got Texas at home plus 6.5. So those are my big 3 this week. In the college football realm. Looking forward to sitting down on Saturday and watching a lot of that. So now I want to explain to you guys kind of what's happening this year with the NFL picks. Now, last year we did a thing where we picked, me and my high school buddies, we picked each game against the spread each week, each one of those with 1 point. Preseason, like I did last week on the podcast, chose division winners and then a Super Bowl winner. So if you win a division winner, it is 4 points. And I believe I got 7 out of 8 or 8 out of 8 last year, which was pretty remarkable. This year I'm probably due for like a 2 out of 8. And then we did our Super Bowl champion, 20 points. And the closest we got were a couple of people went Saints, but they were obviously got knocked out. So nobody got those 20 points, which can clearly change a lot of things. Everything kind of bunched up there at the end. However, we do want to make it a little bit more interesting this year as far as some rules. So here are a few things that we're going to do differently for this Pick'em league. And if you want to keep your scores at home or shoot them to me, we'll be happy to put you in the Excel spreadsheet. So the same rules apply for the correct division winner. So 4 points per division winner. I do have their picks in hand, and I can, as the season goes on, if somebody's kind of making a run that was a dark horse, I will enlighten you of some of the picks that they made. And then the Super Bowl winner, 20 points. Each correct pick against the spread, 1 point. Now, this is the new part of the league that we're doing here. First off, the first new thing is lock of the week. So we have to pick one team that will for sure win against the spread. Doesn't have to be outright, but against the spread, and that will be worth 3 points. You can only use each team once throughout the season. So this week, if I wanted to pick Oakland as a lock +1 at home against Denver, and I locked it up, and I got that correctly, I can no longer use the Raiders as my lock of the week. So throughout the year, and for people who have done the leagues where you pick a winner each week, you only pick one winner, and then they have to win. You can't use that team again. I think that's called knockout. So it's similar to knockout, but it's only for 3 points if you get the lock correct. If you don't, you automatically lose 1 point, and you have to use a lock pick each week. So you can't be like, I don't feel comfortable about any of them. You have to lock one down and do that each week. So the second new thing is a shutout. Can only be used once during the entire season. You pick a team that will shut out another team that week. For example, if you say that the Patriots that week are going to shut out their opponent, say they're playing the Bills, for instance, and they beat them 21-0, and you called it, 10 points will be awarded if picked properly. For this one, there are no consequences, but this time it can only be used once. If each one of us are putting in our picks, it's first come, first serve, and the person that claims it first can use it, and you can't double it up. So say Garrett emails me and he says, I want to put my shutout in on the Patriots over the Bills this week, and he's the first person to send it to me. Trevor and Evan and I cannot use that week. So that's how that works. 10 points, there's no consequences, but you only get to use it once in the entire season. So essentially, if, say I'm in third place or fourth place midway or 3/4 of the way through the season, I want to make a comeback, I can try for that. There's no consequence, but you only get one chance at it. So you have to be pretty confident in that. So that'll be fun, an extra 10 points there. So seriously, like half a Super Bowl champion is what that's worth. And then also new, if undefeated against the spread for any given week. So we do the games against the spread, and obviously if you get it perfectly against the spread on any week, you'll get 5 extra points. Obviously there's no consequences. You're picking them every single week. So that is the point structure for this year. I truly think that it's going to be even tighter than it was last year, and I think top to bottom we were within maybe 5 points, 6 points of each other. Towards the end, Trevor really made a run at me, and then I kind of pulled away with a couple of wins because we kept picking through the playoffs. So I'm interested to see how this year goes. And so with those rules being kept in mind, let's get to some of the picks, shall we? Let's start in the NFC side, which all these are going to be in the 1 o'clock Eastern window starting on Sunday. The Minnesota Vikings, my NFC champion pick, are hosting the Atlanta Falcons, and the Vikings are -4 there. Well, I'm not going to pick the Vikings and then pick them to lose their first game -4. So I'm going Minnesota at home -4 against Atlanta. Atlanta, a good team. I think they could fall flat a little bit against, I think, like I've said a couple times now, Minnesota, who's going to be improved. I think if Kirk Cousins can, show something early, could be kind of one of those sleeper quarterbacks for MVP. Don't call me that crazy, but MVPs have been 35-1 the past couple of years to win it, and he's at 35-1 right now to win the MVP. So it could be one of those things where if the Vikings have a crazy season and he's leading the charge in the NFC, that could be one of those things that you see. So we get to our first road favorite, and that is the Baltimore Ravens at Miami, and the Ravens are -6.5. And by the way, I do use oddshark.com for all these against the spreads. It's pretty up to date. Spread consensus. You can see what the pros are doing here, as far as what casinos are putting out there as the spread. Total consensus, and you can see what people are betting. So 67% Baltimore. And then you got your over-under. We don't do a lot of over-unders. We might pepper that in the future, but we do not do that right now. So Baltimore is -6.5 at Miami. I would say this is a pretty clear-cut shutout situation, but I'm not going to use my shutout quite yet this season. I only get one of them, and it's worth 10 points. And so, I don't want to be wrong, and I want to have that ability to come back if I do struggle through this first half of the season. So with that being said, Lamar Jackson, I think, is solid. I think the run game translates even into Miami, where they could struggle to find a win for a while. The other thing is, though, getting 6.5 points at home is pretty tough, and so Miami could be sticky in this particular one. It's only one game. I'm going to take the home and the points, and I'm going to take Miami. I talked myself into that one because home and the points is just too juicy. Double digits or close to double digits, and a home underdog, I think, especially whenever it's 6.5, it's a lot of points to give a home team. So even though Miami might be total garbage, maybe they lose by a field goal. So 6.5 points. Oh, excuse me. 6.5 points at home, Miami Dolphins, I think, against the spread. So, staying in the AFC, we got the Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets. Little AFC East battle here. And the Jets are -2.5. And as you can see in the predicted score, 22 to 19.5. I mean, essentially it's right at the spread, which makes this one really, really difficult. I do think the Bills are going to be improved this year, but I do think this is a year that Sam Darnold can take a step up. You got Le'Veon Bell, and so I'm interested to see what the Jets can do. So I will take the Jets at home, -2.5 on that game. I really think it's one of those things that the Jets could do some things. Which, by the way, as we take a little quick thought break here, because we're 3 games into a pretty full set of obviously opening weekend games. I still have that video, the thing that essentially blew my mind whenever I saw it. That's coming up for you at the end of these picks. I promise. I'll show it to you before we leave. It is pretty crazy. I would say, yeah, I'll never see something like it again. But then again, the internet's crazy and the world's crazy. So, all right, let's get back to it. So on picks wise, so far I have Minnesota -4, Miami +6.5, and the Jets -2.5. So staying in that 1 o'clock Eastern window, we have another home favorite or another home underdog as the Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl favorites, and the team that I picked against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Which, by the way, the correct way of saying Jaguar is Jaguar. It's not Jaguar. Big pet peeve of mine. Being around people that say Jaguar really drives me crazy. So look it up. Jaguar. And I've looked this up before. YouTube will tell you it's both correct. It's not. Say Jaguar. Jaguar sounds very American, and pretty sure the British made up that word. Okay, so anyways, big sidetrack there. I apologize. The Chiefs at Jacksonville. Jacksonville, one of those sneaky teams, like I said in last week's episode, that could truly give the Texans a run for their money in the AFC South. And, one of those things that this would be a statement game for them. Leonard Fournette, probably the second-ranked defense, too, in the NFL, according to a lot of fantasy football drafts. So I think Jacksonville will give them a run for their money. But in last year's game, the Chiefs and the Jags, obviously Blake Bortles was trash, but Kansas City had their lowest points output by their offense, 23 points. And Patrick Mahomes threw 2 interceptions. I don't think that happens this time. I think they're pretty crisp. They want to show the league what they're all about. So Kansas City, -3.5. I have absolutely no problem with that. Probably what I'm going to do as far as my lock pick goes, unless I'm just overwhelmingly in love with that game, I will pick all the games and I will go back and lock one up. So that'll be something you can look forward to as well. So I think Patrick Mahomes and that team, that high-powered offense, does enough on the road. And I do think the lack of practice days for Jacksonville, obviously with Hurricane Dorian, pretty big deal. So I do think the Chiefs go ahead and get that victory. And I think 22 points is pretty low, if I do say so myself. But good defense. So I can see what they're saying. All right. So back to the NFC now. In the window of 1 p.m. Eastern still. We got a few more of these, 3 more. Los Angeles Rams at Carolina. Across the country, do the Los Angeles Rams have to come? So, in their minds, when they're playing at 1 p.m. Eastern time, you are so far off your schedule. It's going to feel like 10 a.m. in Los Angeles because that's what it is during 1 p.m. Eastern time. So for me, I think that plays a big factor. I think the Rams are a good team. However, I do think Carolina in a Week 1 matchup, being a home underdog, they get a couple of points. And I think Christian McCaffrey is going to be explosive. I mean, he could be in the MVP talk at the end of the year because he is that type of player. For me, I like Carolina. I'm not locking this one up by any means. But you can see the predicted score here by OddsShark, and it does have Carolina winning it outright. I think that they're a good team, and that type of advantage as far as time goes, feeling like it's 1 p.m. in the afternoon compared to feeling like it's 10 a.m. in the morning, I think is a big deal. So then Cam Newton, Christian McCaffrey, and then that defense gets the job done against the defending NFC champion Rams. And then I'm sure the Rams will get their head on straight because I do think they're a good football team. But I do think both those teams are playoff teams. Pretty sure I put both of them in the playoffs. I did. I put the Panthers and the Rams winning their division. The Saints winning the South. Panthers sneaking in on a wild card is where I had that. So, moving on. Tennessee Titans at Cleveland Browns. And yes, the Browns are for real. Maybe. Kind of. Possibly. The Browns at home against the Titans. Now, this is one of those where I'm tempted to throw the lock on it because here's the thing, though. With Week 1, it's kind of a free ball game. If I want to take some chances here, I can. I'm not playing with real money. Duh. I'm just picking games on a podcast, which hopefully you like. So Cleveland -5.5 against Tennessee. I do think that Cleveland wins this game. I do think they cover that spread. I don't think that Tennessee's ready with their quarterback situation yet. So I think Cleveland is the play here. And like I said, I'll come back and lock it up if I feel like at the end of it. But Cleveland and Tennessee, I think, could be kind of one of those sleeper games that I want to watch on like NFL Red Zone because I do think it could be a really good, solid game to open it up for Baker Mayfield against that Titans defense. So wrapping up the 1 p.m. Eastern window, you got the Washington Redskins and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the Eagles are favored by 10 at home. Yeah, this is where I really struggle with these, because double digits or near double digits are always tempting to take the team that is the underdog, because 10 points in the NFL is a lot compared to, you look at Texas A&M and Clemson, only 11 ranks difference in the rankings, and Clemson's minus 17. That shows you one of the biggest difference of college football to the NFL is everything is so stacked in the NFL because they're all professional football players. So Washington plus 10 at Philly. Philly's a good team, and I have them kind of getting stuck out of a playoff spot, and I'm sure people are not happy with me if they're Philly fans, but because I do think they're good enough to make the playoffs. And I think they're good enough to win this game. It's kind of like that game coming up here in a few picks with the Cowboys and the Giants. It's just one of those things where Washington is so bad this year that you just almost can't pick them, regardless of the number. Like if it's minus 13 or 14, I probably go Washington because that's a full 2 touchdowns. I'll take Philadelphia minus 10 there, and nothing really special about it. I mean, the over-under 44.5. A lot of people taking the under, clearly. And so, we're 7 picks in, halfway through. Like I said, hit that like, subscribe button. Really do appreciate you guys tuning in. If you've stuck around so far, please let me know, because I like to know how long people listen into this thing. If you listen to the whole thing, please do comment and let me know, because I really do appreciate you guys supporting the show. So let's get back into the picks here. Cincinnati and Seattle, they kick off that 3:05 window for us. Minus 9.5 for Seattle. I think this one's pretty cut and dry. I don't think Cincinnati has enough to get the job done, especially on the road. And I think 9.5. I think the Seahawks are a playoff team, and I think that they show it early on here. Russell Wilson wanted to come out and make a statement in Week 1, so I will go Seattle minus 9.5. Go to Indianapolis and the Colts, or Indianapolis and the Colts. Indianapolis Colts at the Los Angeles Chargers. In that 4:05 window Eastern time. The Chargers are a good team, and they're going to be a solid team. This could be a really, really tough game to watch. A lot of people injured, a lot of people, Andrew Luck retired. So this is probably not going to be the highest ranked watched game of Week 1. I imagine that's probably going to go Cleveland and Tennessee. I imagine it's probably going to go Kansas City, Jacksonville. Probably have a little Giants, Cowboys intrigue. Then you'll have, Steelers, Patriots. I mean, there's some good games out there this week. So I don't think that this gets a lot of eyeballs, clearly because of some things outside and off the field. I think this could be a tough game for the Chargers. I really do, at home. And here's why is I think that the Colts have the ability, even though they're starting Jacoby Brissett and they've shown faith in him by signing him to an extension, is that whenever you travel, you have a little bit more incentive, and we've never really had a sudden retirement by one of could have been an all-time great quarterback before, and so I think that they're going to be hungry and ready to show people what they're all about. They get 6.5 points, and they have a pretty dang good running back in Marlon Mack. So I think they could control the clock. T.Y. Hilton's still on that team. Still have a great offensive line. So I'm going to go Indy, plus 6.5. I don't think that that's a stupid pick. They might not win the game, but I think that they're good enough to be within a 6.5 points. So that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go Indianapolis, plus 6.5 on that one. There's an underdog for you. So another home underdog this time. You got the Detroit Lions at the Arizona Cardinals, the professional regular season debut of Kyler Murray. And the Lions are, how do I say it? If you watched every highlight, let's say you're watching SportsCenter or whatever you watch, and you watch every highlight of a game or every highlight of an NFL Sunday. And then they were like, all right, that's all the highlights for the day. Let's go to commercial break. We'll be right back. And I said, and somebody sat there and said, there were no Lions highlights. I wouldn't believe you. I think the Lions are super forgettable. Like, you just don't think, oh, I really wonder what Detroit did today. It's nothing personal against Detroit. I've been to Detroit, really like the city. But I just think they're a forgettable football team. So, there might be a little intrigue. At Arizona. Arizona gets a couple and a half points. I think Kyler Murray is electric, and I don't know how a lot of NFL teams are going to work guarding him. So for me, this is a toss-up. I like Arizona at home, underdog, getting 2 points, 2.5 points. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go Arizona. Why the heck not? We're, week 1. We can take some chances here, and I think that's a pretty solid chance to take because nobody really knows how he's going to be. So looking forward to that game. I'm definitely going to watch some of that game, as well as my Dallas Cowboys hosting the New York Football Giants. And the Giants are not a good football team. You have Eli still. You have a couple of pieces there. By the biggest piece probably in fantasy football, Saquon Barkley. He's the biggest X factor for me. If the Giants are going to make a competitive game with the Cowboys, which I think is definitely possible, it always happens in week 1 especially, Saquon is an absolute stud. I think on the other side of this is the Cowboys got Zeke back. Now, I say they're going to limit him to 25 touches. I really don't think so. I think if it's a field goal game in the fourth quarter and you have to run the football 6 times and get 2 first downs, I don't think you're going to be benching Ezekiel Elliott. That's just me personally. I've never been an NFL head coach or offensive coordinator or whatever, but I don't think Zeke's on the bench if that happens. So, me personally, I do think the Cowboys are good enough to beat the Giants by 7 points. The unfortunate thing for me is that they're favored by 7 points. So do I believe that the Giants will get a field goal late or the Cowboys will kick a field goal to seal the deal over 7? It's a toss-up for me. I wish we could have some games we could skip over because they are tough to pick. But I do think Zeke is going to be ready to play some football. I think he'll be fresh. I think the Dak will be ready to go. The offensive line will be ready to go. They're healthy. The 2 linebackers, Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch, are as good of a duo at linebacker, I think, that the Cowboys have ever had. Maybe there's some people that'll argue with me on that. But they are good, and they're solid, and they can cover sideline to sideline. And a lot of times, that sideline to sideline is not going to be further than 5 yards from the line of scrimmage because they're going to track the guy down. So for me, I'm going Dallas. All that to be said, I'm going Dallas. I do think the Giants keep it close. I do think it's a touchdown game. So I think the Cowboys win by 7. However, I have to pick a game. That's how we're doing this. So picking Dallas. So San Francisco, Tampa Bay. This is another one of those things where a West Coast team comes and meets an East Coast team. However, this is later on in the day, so it shouldn't affect the 49ers very much. And I do think that the 49ers are a good team. I mean, you get 1 point if you go San Francisco, but then Tampa Bay it's weird to me. I didn't think that they'd be much of a good team. They add in Ndamukong Suh. They still have Mike Evans, which I think is a pretty good receiver. You have Peyton Barber, who's a pretty good running back, and some other guys there by committee. I think they're good enough to win the game by more than a point. Tampa Bay is notably one of those teams that starts off hot, a la Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's now on the Dolphins. But I'll go Tampa Bay -1. I really don't have a problem with that. I think that's a pretty simple pick there. And then Pittsburgh at New England, Sunday Night Football on NBC with old Allie Michaels and Chris Collinsworth. So Pittsburgh, good team. Got rid of a lot of drama, to be fair, with Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown. Guys that probably distracted heavily in that locker room. Steelers are always a well-run organization as well, and Big Ben is still there. And you have Juju Smith-Schuster, who's a good player. Devin Bush is a solid linebacker, and I think that defense could be much improved. However, it's opening night. It's Tom freaking Brady, who has 6 Super Bowl rings. The entire nation is going to be watching essentially on Sunday Night Football. So, with all those reasons being said, and Bill Belichick's there too. Not sure if you forgot who's the head coach of the Patriots. I'm going to go New England as they start carving a path to their 45th straight AFC East championship. I know that's incorrect because the Bills were really good. It's a joke, okay? It's an exaggeration. So I'm taking New England -5.5. So 2 picks left here as we wrap up the show. Okay, good. Checking time here. We're at 41.5 minutes. So thanks for sticking in there. You guys let me know how long you've listened. Hopefully you don't hate the show. But really do appreciate you guys tuning in. So the Monday Night Football games, the back-to-back jacks on Monday Night Football. ESPN does this each year on week 1, and it typically does include the late night, the nightcap. The West Coast teams, not great. Excuse me. So the nightcap to me has never been a great game. Obviously, I fall asleep before the end of it. But the first one, very intriguing. The Houston Texans at the New Orleans Saints. And whenever I saw the spread, I was very interested. It's -7 to the Saints. And I think the Saints are really solid. I mean, I think they're a good football team. They're at home. It's going to be rowdy. I think the Texans are a really, really good football team. And I think that they have the capabilities of winning their division, winning a playoff game. 7 points is a lot for me. This is one of those ones I think I'm going to take a chance on. I do think that New Orleans wins the football game, but I think it's closer than 7 points. I want to go Houston here, so that way I can have some underdog power, and I do think that they can keep it close. Now, if the Saints go out and they demolish them 34-7, okay, now I know what I'm getting with the Texans, but I do think that they can stick around with Will Fuller and DeAndre Hopkins and Duke Johnson Jr., and obviously Deshaun Watson, an improved offensive line already. I think that defense has cleared some room. They might lack a little bit, but I still think they're a good team. So, Texans +7, Monday night, first game, 6:10 Central Standard Time. So in the nightcap, the only reason why I'm staying awake to watch the nightcap is Antonio Brown. How much of a factor is he? Is he ready to be out on the field full-time for the Raiders? Can they get along? Or was all this kind of a hard knocks, let's just play stunts on each other? Just those stunts include $53,000 in fines for Antonio Brown. How much will he be ready? I don't know. I do think that Oakland is the better football team. At Denver away from home, obviously, I think if it was at Mile High, I might feel different. But I do think Oakland kind of gives their fans something to enjoy, the opening night victory against Denver in their final season in Oakland. So, Oakland, the home underdog by 1 point. And I really like that. I think that these are good picks. So, to recap, Minnesota -4, Miami +6.5, Jets -2.5, Kansas City -3.5, Carolina +2, Cleveland -5.5, Philly -10, Seattle -9.5, Indianapolis +6.5, Arizona +2.5, Dallas -7, Tampa Bay -1, New England -5.5, Houston +7, Oakland +1. So a good amount of underdogs in there. I know a couple of those are pretty, even anyways, almost a push, a pick 'em. But I like those. I think those are really good. Now, I do have to pick a lock of the week. And this is one of those things where it's brand new to us. We're 3 points. However, if I get my lock wrong, I do lose 1 point. So that's kind of the catch-22, but you have to do it. So I want to take a chance here because you can only use each team one time. So, we could choose a variety of people, but I really want to save my division winners, which are the Rams, Vikings, Saints, Cowboys, Chiefs, Ravens, Texans, Patriots, and then extra playoff teams: Browns, Chargers, Panthers, Seahawks. I think that there are some teams that are good enough to lock up here against the spread. This has to be against the spread here. But I think I was most intrigued by saying Cleveland against Tennessee. I'm going to lock that one in. Cleveland is my lock of the week. We're 3 points. They must cover that 5.5 point spread. I think they're good enough to do it. I'm going to send these lines out, and I will update you guys on how things go throughout the weekend and what the percentages are, because I think people are interested. So I teased something at the beginning of the show that simply almost changed my life. I think it is one of the weirdest videos I've ever seen personally. Guarantee you there's an ad at this beginning of the video, so nobody get mad. I promise. I'll show you the video. I'm not sure we're going to have Nat sound with this, but let me get a pull up here. It is truly, truly crazy. Let me turn it up so maybe you guys can hear it. Okay, so check this out. This guy is going up. Goes up on a roller coaster, okay? Like, this guy is being brave. Here we go. Here's some sound. Goes out of a tunnel. Oh, yeet! He got a cell phone, and then he's so hyped, he's not even paying attention to the ride. He's high-fiving people. Save somebody's phone. It is unbelievable. I'm going to go back and replay it for you without some sound. This is one of the most unbelievable catches you'll ever see. If this isn't on the SC Top 10 tonight, I'm crazy. So he goes through the tunnel, hands in the air, and then he immediately realizes the guy behind him's like, yeah, dude, you just saved my face. Unbelievable. That is as good of a catch as you will ever see. Ever. I dare say. Somebody find me. Here, we'll do this. Somebody find me a better catch. Somebody find me a better catch. Then we'll talk. I have no doubt in my mind that is the best catch of any object I've ever seen. Ever. So, with that being said, social media. Jonathan Polasek on Twitter. Facebook, Classic Plastic Podcast. YouTube, Classic Plastic Podcast. Actually, search JP Sports Guy. But if you search Classic Plastic Podcast, you can subscribe to that channel once you watch it. And, yeah. That's where I reside on social. You guys let me know. Facebook, YouTube, where do you want the audio for your podcast, for your daily commute, once a weekend, on your way to the football game. Pop this on, call up your bookie. I'm just kidding. I don't have a bookie. But call some people up and get some picks going. I think this is one of those things that's really fun. That you don't have to spend money to go against the spread, but it is enjoyable. So, you guys hit me up. I really do appreciate you guys listening to the Classic Plastic Podcast. The NFL's here, guys. We have it until February. This is it. We get it for a long time. Super Bowl not far away. So, appreciate you guys tuning in. If you would, like and subscribe, and I do appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next week right here on the Classic Plastic Podcast.